Hey folks, welcome to the show. Let's finally talk about the Vezina nominees that were released almost a week ago. The nominees were Sergei Bobrovsky, Thatcher Demko, and Connor Hellebuck, meaning they finished top three in voting. Voting has already happened, but when a guy or gal goes up to vote, they get 5 choices, and so I added the 2 that I would have added in addition, or at least my top 5, I should say. Before I get into it, let's talk about what all these numbers and colors mean. The color is the deeper the blue, the better they did. If it's not this shade of blue, it's top 10 because it will have to be deeper than that. The deeper it goes, the higher it gets. And if it's this shade of blue with white numbers, it's best in the league. Excuse me. Now, the legend here is this first number is goalie point share. It's a number I've used before, a statistic I've used before, that's calculated via Hockey Reference. It's a whole calculation I'm not really going to get into here, but the idea of it is calculating the goalie's worth in a quantitative number. So it's not really a measure of the goalie's quality, but their quantity. Next is games played and wins, which are stats you've seen before, and if you're not familiar with, you can guess what they mean. Next is goals against average, so their goals allowed per 60 minutes, save percentage, shutouts, and then there's quality start percentage. This is also from Hockey Reference. The idea of it is the percentage of a goalie's starts that were above league average save percentage. So if it's above 500, it's good. And if it's above 600, Hockey Reference says that's really good. Next is high danger save percentage. This comes from NHL Edge. Most goalies are above 800. Well, I shouldn't say that, but most of the best goalies are above 800 in that regard. Next is goals saved above average. It's not used too much because of the next stat. It's a measure of the quantity of workload a goalie had in saves. The reason it's not used much is because the goal saved above expected, which is both a measure of quantity and quality of saves that a goalie has to make. And I'm not going to get too deep into how it's calculated, as well as I'm not going to get too deep into how this stat's calculated, which I'll come back to. But this goal saved above expected comes from Evolving Hockey, because them and other places have different models. I like Evolving Hockey the best, but Money Puck has a good one too. Skipping over that second last one is saves per 60 minutes. Self-explanatory. The reason it and this SRAA isn't colored is because I don't have the numbers for all 99 goalies that played in the NHL, so I can't really guarantee how deep the blue would be for any of these goalies, or red it might be. Now, this mystery stat you've never seen before is SRAA. The reason you've never seen it before, and I know that, is because I created it. It's called that for save rate above average. It's a working title. I could change it, but the idea is using NHL Edge's new shot location numbers to create a more, in my opinion, reliable or relatively reliable version of goals saved above expected. I will get deeper into how that is calculated in another video, but for now, that's I don't want to spend a whole 10 minutes on that. And in that video, I'll also look at the SRAA of all 99 goalies as well, so that if you got an idea, thinking about any goalie, it's your go-to stop for that. And I'm really excited by it. It's just taken up a ton of time. Anyways, what I will say is that from all the goalies SRAA that I've calculated nearly 70 of them, so not much left to go. All 5 of these numbers are very good, and Connor Hellebuck does have the highest number I've seen yet, and I don't think anybody will surpass him at plus 29.87, but we'll see. Now, let's actually get into it. So Bennington and Shesterkin were left off of the nominees, so I'll talk about them first. Shesterkin had one of the less consistent years of his. He started kind of rough, but in the last few months he had an excellent year and was very consistent in the last few months. and helped him to finish the year with 36 wins, 912 save percentage, 4 shutouts, and a plus 17.36 goal saved above expected. More important, in my opinion, a 14.4 SRAA. He had a really good year as part of a really good team, and he was a huge part of it. Next, the other goalie that wasn't on the nominee bid was Jordan Binnington. Excuse the Halo music in the background, or if you really like it, you're welcome. Jordan Binnington, I think, had a really excellent year that wasn't talked about enough. He's one of those goalies who suffered, but also excelled behind a struggling defense, in that the defense was really bad, so his numbers suffered, but as a result, he did have some really good numbers as well, but nobody talks about him as much because it's like, oh, well, he didn't have 30 wins like these other goalies and all that. But the fact that he had comparable numbers to all these other goalies, despite having to save 29.72 saves per 60 minutes, is incredible. Now, yeah, I haven't calculated the saves per 60 minutes of all 99 goalies, but if you think about it this way, teams average about 30 shots a game this year. That I do know. I don't have the exact number, but I know from looking at it, it's about 3 goals a game, 30 shots a game, and the average save percentage was like 902. 29.72 saves per 60 minutes is elite, frankly, and much higher than all 4 of these other goalies. And because of that, and because of Binnington's elite high danger save percentage, he had an amazing year. He was still able to have a 913 save percentage when considering the defense he was behind. It would have been forgiven if he dropped down to 902 or something like that. So, yeah, amazing year for Binnington that I hope gets talked about more, but I fully understand why he wasn't in the top 3. But if you feel like he should be in the top 3 instead of Bobrovsky or Demko or Hellebuck, okay, well, maybe not Hellebuck or Demko, but instead of Bobrovsky, I see where you're coming from. But let's talk about Bobrovsky. I did kind of reveal my hand on who I think will finish in the top 3 there, but it isn't really a secret to everybody. I was trying to not say who my top 3 were until the end of the video, but you've probably guessed it by now. And if you haven't, you're wrong. And you're wrong about who should be the top 3, probably. Anyways, Bobrovsky is, in my opinion, the 3rd best goalie. He had a great year. The reason I kind of feel like Binnington could replace him is because Bobrovsky wasn't as integral to the Panthers winning as Binnington was integral to the Blues winning. That said, Bobrovsky still had a great year. He won 36 games behind the Florida Panthers with a 915 save percentage and was tied for the league lead in shutouts with 6. His high danger save percentage was a little low, which did hurt his analytics here in goal save above expected and save rate above average. But he didn't need to face a lot of shots. He only had to make 25.47 saves per game, which is the lowest of these 5. And that's kind of why, in my opinion, he's 3rd among these 5 goalies, or 4th. It could really go either way between him and Binnington. But that's not an insult at Bobrovsky at all. And I think the fact that he did this after a big, long playoff run is very impressive, because usually it's not uncommon for a goalie to struggle after a long playoff run or be injured, like Adin Hill is, who struggled and got injured. Yeah, here's Bobrovsky. He had a great year. And again, part of it was because he wasn't facing 27 shots a game, because the difference between 25 and 27 is quite a bit in the long run. Still, he did great. Next, who I think is everybody's second, is Thatcher Demko. Him and his fellow American Connor Hellebuck will likely, in my opinion, will likely finish out the top 2. I don't think there's much of an argument between who's going to win the Vezina. But for a long time, it was neck and neck between these 2 Americans, Thatcher Demko and Connor Hellebuck. It wasn't until Demko faced injury and Hellebuck got even better that we're like, okay, this is Hellebuck's year. That said, Thatcher Demko had a year to be proud of. He had 35 wins, 918 save percentage, and 5 shutouts. He also had one of the league's highest high danger save percentages at 845, which helped him have very elite analytics, both in Evolving Hockey's models and my model. Connor Hellebuck, though, had a similar save per 60 minutes. They were both around 27, or just above 27, I mean. Hellebuck's was closer to 28, though, and he was just top 5 or top 10 in pretty much every notable category. I'm just going to go through it. He was number 1 in goalie point share, top 5 in games played, top 5 in wins with 37, try to remember which color that was, top 6, top 7, I think it was, and with 2.39 goals against average. He was one of the only goalies to have a 920 or better save percentage this year, and the only goalie to have a 920 save percentage for goalies who played over 30 games. Yeah, that's how awesome he was. The only other goalie was Anthony Stolarz, who played, I think, 27 games, and Hellebuck managed 927 save percentage after 60 games. Because the rule of thumb is, for most goalies, is that their save percentage will start falling off the more games they play because they get more tired, they're playing tougher opponents, so their save percentage is going to fall down. That wasn't the case for Hellebuck, because he was amazing. He also had 5 shutouts and was one of the league's most consistent goalies. He had a quality start in 2/3 of his games, which may not sound a lot, but it actually is when you compare it to everyone else's. His high danger save percentage wasn't all the way up there, but it was still top 10. He was number 1 in goals saved above average and goals saved above expected, and probably number 1 in save rate above average, while saving nearly 28 shots per 60 minutes. Winnipeg was a good team this year. They were elite because of Connor Hellebuck. We can talk about his playoff performance all we want, and I don't think he was that bad. I think that was just kind of showing how everyone that Winnipeg Jets are the frauds, but Connor Hellebuck isn't. Connor Hellebuck is an amazing goalie. When a goalie or player gets signed in the offseason or has an extension, especially one with as big as a pay as Connor Hellebuck did, usually we see quite a bit that the player will not have as much of a big year because it's like, oh, I got my money already. I don't need to prove anybody anything. But instead of that, Connor Hellebuck signs the extension and has one of the best years he's ever had, and the best year of any goalie in a lot of people's opinion, including mine, and I assume in all the voters' minds. But we'll see what they say when the actual winners are released. Thank you so much for making this far in this video. I really appreciate that. I would also really appreciate it if you liked the video, and I'd be happy to hear your thoughts down below. While you're there, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you'll see more of my pretty face and hear more of my awesome voice, or all the white noise if you prefer that. That is fine. Whatever it is, I hope you have a great rest of your day, night, or wherever you're at, and hopefully I will see you soon.